Welcome back to the channel, the place where extraordinary talent meets extraordinary stories, where we dive deep into the moments that changed lives, shaped careers, and captured the hearts of millions across the world. Today, we bring you a powerful and emotional journey from the X Factor UK, a story of passion, resilience, and a mentor who refused to let go of someone he believed in with everything he had. This is the story of Simon Cowell fighting to keep Anton Stephans in the competition, a moment that showcased not just talent, but heart, humanity, in one of the most unforgettable displays of loyalty on reality television. Before the spotlight found him, before the roar of the audience, before the judges rose to their feet in awe, Anton Stephans was a man whose life was shaped by both light and darkness. A man with a voice powerful enough to shake arenas, yet a soul gentle enough to quiet storms. He had lived a life full of ups and downs, triumphs and heartbreaks. The X Factor wasn't just a competition for him. It was a lifeline, a chance to prove to the world, and perhaps even to himself, that it was never too late to rise again. Anton arrived at his audition with humility in his eyes and a story that carried the weight of his past. When he stepped onto the stage for the first time, the audience sensed immediately that this wasn't just another contestant. There was something different about him. Something raw. Something real. It wasn't just his voice, it was his presence, his truth, the emotions he carried with him like shadows from another lifetime. As the music began during that first audition, something magical happened. The crowd quieted. The judges leaned forward. And Anton, with a deep breath and a trembling exhale, released a voice that seemed to come from the very depths of his soul. His notes carried pain, carried passion, carried a lifetime's worth of stories no words could fully tell. By the time he finished, the studio erupted. The judges stood. And for the first time in a long time, Anton found himself standing in a place that felt like destiny. From that moment on, Simon Cowell saw something extraordinary in him. Something worth nurturing, worth protecting, worth fighting for. To Simon, Anton wasn't just a contestant. He was a man with a second chance, a man who had walked through fire and still chose to sing. And as the competition progressed, Simon became more than a mentor. He became an anchor, a guide, a believer in a time when belief mattered most. As the bootcamp rounds began, the pressure intensified. Contestants were cut, tears were shed, dreams were shattered. But Anton held on with everything he had. Each performance was a tribute to survival. Each note was a testament to resilience. And Simon watched him closely, recognizing the vulnerability beneath the strength, understanding the weight of what this opportunity meant to him. During the six-chair challenge, the tension in the arena was palpable. Artists stepped onto the stage to fight for their seat, knowing their fate could change within seconds. The judges wrestled with impossible decisions, faced with talent stacked upon talent. And then came Anton. When he stepped up to perform, the room shifted. The lights felt brighter, the air thicker. His voice soared, a mixture of fire and fragility, gripping the hearts of everyone present. As he delivered the final line of his performance, the crowd erupted. They knew it. The judges knew it. Simon knew it. Anton deserved a chair. And Simon gave him one. But in the X Factor, a seat is never safe. As more contestants performed, more emotions surged, and Simon had to make heart-wrenching decisions. The pressure mounted. The crowd became restless. Contestants held their breath. And then came the moment nobody expected. Simon stood up. He paced. He hesitated. He contemplated replacing Anton with another contestant. The audience began to murmur, and Anton watched with silent uncertainty, his heart pounding in his chest. Simon looked at Anton, then back at the stage, then back at his team. The weight of the decision pressed heavily on him. The cameras captured every second of tension, and the world waited. But then something remarkable happened. Simon stopped. He looked directly at Anton, and it was as if he suddenly remembered every note, every emotion, every story Anton had shared. He remembered the power of that voice, the vulnerability in his eyes, the strength in his soul. And in that moment, Simon made a choice that would define the season. He kept Anton. The audience exploded into applause. Anton covered his face, overwhelmed with emotion. Simon reached out, offering not just a chair, but a lifeline, an affirmation that his journey mattered, that his voice mattered, that he mattered. And so, Anton moved forward to the judges' house's stage, where the competition reached a new level of intensity. Surrounded by breathtaking scenery, nerves, and the uncertainty of what the future might hold, he prepared to give one of the most crucial performances of his life. His heart pounded. His hands shook. But when he opened his mouth to sing, the world disappeared. His voice, soaked in emotion, echoed across the landscape like a hymn of hope. Simon listened with a mixture of admiration and concern. He knew Anton had what it took, but he also understood the weight of the competition. When the time came to decide who would move on to the live shows, Simon's heart grew heavy. He sat before the contestants, each representing dreams, sacrifices, and stories that deserved to be heard. But only a few could advance. And then came Anton's name. Simon lifted his eyes, took a deep breath, and told Anton he was going to the live shows. The emotion in that moment was overwhelming. Anton broke down. Simon placed a hand on his shoulder. It wasn't just a judge talking to a contestant. It was a mentor supporting someone he believed in deeply. As the live shows began, Anton walked onto the grand stage, lights beaming down on him, the audience shouting his name, millions watching from across the world. His performances grew stronger, richer, more emotional with every passing week. He was no longer just a singer. He had become a storyteller, a vessel of emotion, a voice that touched hearts everywhere. But as the competition tightened, judges' comments grew sharper, critiques harsher. Pressures mounted. And in one episode, after a performance that divided opinions, Anton found himself facing elimination. The atmosphere grew tense. The votes were close. The judges deliberated. And then, once again, the moment arrived where everything came down to Simon Cowell. And he fought for him. Simon's voice wavered with passion as he defended Anton's artistry, his journey, his heart. He refused to let the competition overshadow the humanity of the performer standing before him. It wasn't about commercial appeal or trends. It was about soul. About authenticity. About a man who gave everything he had every time he stepped onto the stage. Simon locked eyes with Anton and gave him yet another chance to continue singing, continue fighting, continue proving to the world that he belonged. Week after week, Anton poured every ounce of himself into his performances. His voice roared with emotion, cracked with vulnerability, soared with passion. And each time he sang, the audience could feel the story behind the voice, the life behind the music, the courage behind the man. Simon, sitting at the judges' table, watched him with pride. Through the ups, the downs, the doubts, and the triumphs, Simon remained steadfast in his support. He knew Anton wasn't just competing for a title. He was competing for redemption, for identity, for a future he had once believed was out of reach. Though Anton did not win the competition, he won something far more profound. He won the hearts of millions. He won respect. He won back the part of himself he had lost along the way. And he walked away with the mentorship of someone who saw in him what few others had ever seen: potential, power, and purpose. Simon Cowell's fight to keep Anton Stephans in the competition became one of the most heartfelt moments in X Factor history. It was a reminder that behind the lights, behind the cameras, behind the drama of reality television, there lies something deeply human. A connection. A belief. A moment where someone chooses to stand by you when the world seems unsure. Anton's journey became an inspiration. A story of resilience. A story of hope. A story that proves that no matter your age, your past, or your struggles, your voice matters. Your story matters. You matter. As the video slowly fades out, the narrator speaks with a gentle tone. And that, dear viewers, is the extraordinary journey of Simon Cowell and Anton Stephans. A story of courage, compassion, and a voice that refused to be silenced. If you were moved by this journey, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories from the world of talent shows around the globe. Every voice has a story. And we're here to tell them.